In this video we're going to go ahead and create our first table. So I'm going to go ahead and open up SQL database. Let's see, Oracle database homepage, and I want to enter in the SQL commands here in the Oracle database. So I'll just log in with the user account we created in a previous video, and we're going to go ahead and go to these SQL commands once we get this logged in. So if you hit the drop down here and under SQL, you can click on SQL commands, and that'll take us to the correct window to begin with. And so here we are. Now creating a table is actually very simple, and so most of this SQL statements are going to be something that looks just simple. You just have to understand the syntax for it. So I'm going to go ahead and type in create. Now you see here the create that I've typed in is all lowercase. You can use all lowercase or uppercase commands. It doesn't matter when you're typing in your commands. Where it really matters as far as the case sensitivity being is when you're actually trying to see if one field equals another field, or you're entering data into the database. The data itself, like the title of the book, you would want to make sure it was case sensitive. But for the most part, our commands are not going to be. And so most of the time you'll see a lot of people go ahead and type them in all uppercase. And so it's just create table, and then the name of the table we want to create. And so I'm going to go ahead and type in books. So that's creating the table books. Now whenever I create the table, I also have to set the structure. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and what we're going to do, and different programmers or different database administrators will write it a little differently. I like to start it off by putting the opening parenthesis on its own line. You can use the opening parenthesis and start writing your code right after it. That's fine, but I like to do it this way, similar to other programming languages that I used. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to create the first field, which was called book ID, and then I need to put a space after the name of the field that I want to use. And now notice there's no spaces in the name of a field. There never is in the database. You need to have a one-word name for your fields. And so now I tell it the data type, and so I'm going to use varchar, and then in parentheses I'm going to tell it how many characters it needs to take up. So we're going to say 4 characters long is how many characters that the field can hold. And so basically my book ID can only be 4 digits long at this point. And this is also the primary key, and so I'm going to go ahead and just put a space and type in primary key. And then what I'll do is go ahead and put a comma after it, and the comma is what signifies the separation of this field to the next field. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter. I could keep typing this on the same line, however, putting on another line makes it a little easier for me to see. So I'm going to go ahead and type in ISBN underscore 10 for the next one. So we'll type in ISBN underscore 10. And this one's going to be a varchar, and we'll just go ahead and, since it's 10, we're going to say it's 10 characters long. This is not going to be a primary key, so I'll just go ahead and hit the comma and hit enter. And we'll do the next one. And this one's going to be 13 characters long, so we'll just type in varchar 13, comma, and the title was next, and that one's going to be a varchar. And for that one we'll just do 50 characters long. Now the max is going to be 255, and so keep that in mind whenever we're using this. It will hold to 255 characters. So now let's go to category, and that's going to be varchar as well. And I'll set that one as 15 for at the moment. Price. Now here's where we're going to find a little bit of difference. We're going to actually do this one as a decimal. So I'll type in decimal, and now what I'll need to do is I need to have 2 different numbers that I'm working with. Number one is I need to have the total overall length of the number, including the decimal points. So both the left and right side of the decimal point. And so depending on the largest price of my book, well, let's just say if my price was $1,000, that would require me to have 4 characters on the left of the decimal, and it would require me to have 2 on the right hand since I'm dealing with a price. So I would have to have a total of 6 characters, and that's the first part of the decimal. I'll hit a comma, and now I'm going to tell it how many points or how many of these 6 numbers are going to be on the or for the decimal, after the decimal. So that's going to be 2 characters after the decimal, and so it's going to be 6 characters possible total length, 2 characters of which are going to be on the right hand side of the decimal point. So I'm going to go ahead and type that one in, and now let's go ahead and we'll do the next one was binding, and that's going to be a varchar of we'll set 1 for that one. And pub date is going to be a varchar for author ID is going to be, let's just, for the sake of using it for this video, I'm going to call it a small int. Now normally I would have gone ahead and put it as a varchar for this particular field, but we use small int just so to change it up a little bit. And same thing for publisher ID. We'll call that one a small int. And this is the last of my fields, so I do not put a comma after it. I just leave it the way that it is. And what I usually like to do is hit a space and put the end of the semicolon, or end of the parenthesis. And then when we end a statement, some of the database applications require you to end it with a semicolon. On this Oracle database, I can actually get away without running it with a semicolon. However, for just good practice, we'll end our statement with the semicolon. So this is the entire statement, or SQL statement, that I have to create my database. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And you're going to see here in just a second, oh, I've got an invalid data type. Let's see what the error is. And I've already seen the error. I spelled small int wrong here, so let me add another L in there and now rerun it. And you're going to see this time when we run it, we should say table created. And so my table has now been created for the books table. So now what I need to do is go ahead and create another table. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this information here. I'm going to go ahead and create another table for my publisher ID and my author ID. And so for the sake of time, I'm going to paste the code in there for the publisher table. And you can see here I said create table publisher. I started with a parenthesis again. I've got publisher ID. Now one thing to keep in mind is if I'm going to use this to link tables, it's best practice to actually use the same data types between tables. And since in the books table I've already called it a small int, I do want to make sure that the data types are the same. So I'm going to use small int again. And this is going to be the primary key of this table. So I've got primary key in there with a comma at the end of that one. And then I've got my second field here, which is the publisher name. And this is going to be just a varchar of 40. And this is going to be my statement for the publisher table. I'll hit run. And you're going to see that the publisher table now is created. And so I've got one table left, and that's going to be the author table. And so I'll paste the author table in here as well. And I've just got the create table command. The name of the table is going to be author. Again, the opening parenthesis and ending parenthesis down here. And then I've also got the three different fields that I'm going to create. The author ID, small int, because I use small int in the books table for this particular field. And this is going to be the primary key. I've got the last and first names, and those are both going to be set for varchar 25 for the last name, 20 for the first name. And so these are the commands that we're going to run. Let me go ahead and hit run. And it'll say table created here. There it is in just a second. So this video is creating the tables and the structure of the tables. In the next video, we're going to look at viewing the tables that we created and seeing the actual structures just to make sure that we've got everything that we wanted there.